This movie has been on a marketing tear, an absolute masterclass in promotional content. From the main actress having her heart rate raised by 100 points when seeing Nicolas Cage as the titular character for the first time, all the way to these spooky trailers with insanely good music. But this is not my first rodeo. A movie like this comes out every single year. It has a ton of hype coming into the release date, a lot of cool promotional material, scariest ever. I try to temper expectations a lot when viewing a movie like this. But I'm gonna be honest, I don't know why I'm hyping up this movie like I didn't like it. I absolutely loved this movie. It lived up to that hype. I'm not gonna say it lived up to that hype and more, but it definitely lived up to the expectations that were set by everybody. So what is Longlegs about? Longlegs is a detective, serial killer, satanic film. It's about a FBI detective that is investigating a serial killer named Longlegs, and it turns out she may have some connections to the killer. That's all I will say. What did I love about this movie? The number one thing I loved about this movie was how it set its tone and how full of dread it was. When I walked out of this movie, I felt like I had to shake off the dread. Like, oh my gosh, life isn't that bad, right? This film absolutely nails its tone. It absolutely nails the imagery as well. There is some truly haunting imagery in this film. I love the use of veils. I love the use of porcelain dolls. Everything is just so haunting. This is like the only complaint I have about this movie, and it's such a nitpick. The satanic imagery seemed to be kind of all over the place at times. It never took me out of the movie, but it would just flash back between these like stakes all the time in a red room. I thought it was kind of corny. The rest of the imagery worked for me pretty well. Again, the imagery is like the number one seller of this film. That's just a nitpick I had. Yeah, man, after I watched this movie, I felt like I needed a long shower. I needed to cleanse myself. This movie is not full of gross outs like it may have been hyped up to be by some people. What's grosser to me is just how bleak this movie is. That's what truly haunts me. Not to just go right to the ending of this movie, but the way that this movie ended is something that a lot of horror movies would not have done. It really leans into the bleakness and the grim nature of this film. This movie is broken into 3 parts, and that is usually helpful to me when it comes to pacing. I watched this at the Alamo, and they give you your bill with 45 minutes left in the movie. When that bill came around, I was like, no way, there's only 45 minutes already? Key tip, guys, don't look up your run times before the movie. That's a scrub move. You're there to watch the movie, not to count down when the movie's going to end. The performances are fantastic. Maika Monroe, you have been missed. I love how nervy she plays the detective. There are too many detective movies where they're just like these sharpshooters and they're never moving or shaking at all. Every time she's searching a room, she's shaking the entire time. Like, you can see how nervous she is. I would also have to credit the director on that. That was definitely some great direction. Nick Cage, man, just an awesome performance. This is probably in his Mount Rushmore of performances for me personally. He's never gone this weird. This is really weird. This is like Manson family-esque. It's truly haunting. I love the prosthetics that they applied to him as well. You can clearly see the extra layer on his face, and I think it kind of adds to the scary nature of his character. There's a lot of separation between just his face and to like his eye. I like this bit of not showing Nick Cage's character in all of the trailers, and then within 5 seconds of the movie, you see exactly what he looks like. They were really hyping it up too with the heartbeat thing I was talking about earlier. When the movie first started and we already saw what Nick Cage looked like, I was kind of mad. I kind of thought it would be a reveal like an hour into the movie. Once the movie finished, I realized that was one of the greater scenes of the entire movie, was the intro scene. I didn't realize how hooked I was until the end of the movie. It's obvious that he's having a lot of fun with this character, and he really nails it. I like the production design of this movie too. It's really funny when you just see like Bill Clinton in the back of the detective's office. I also think this time period works way better than current day. There is nothing better than seeing Nicolas Cage's character on like a staticky TV. I love the score too. If you watched the trailer, you knew the score and the sound design was going to be fantastic.
A nice long look.
There is one more performance I want to highlight. Sally Draper's back. Kiernan Shipka, I think is how you say her name. Oh my god, she was such a great standout in this movie. I couldn't tell it was her for a little bit, then I started to focus in on her voice, and I'm like, oh, that's Sally Draper. She's in one of the best scenes of the entire movie. It adds to this layer of, can this guy really control people? That's when the movie starts to make its turn into more satanic stuff, and I really thought that was a great inflection point for me. I'm gonna be honest, man, I don't got a lot to say about this this movie. It was a well-executed horror movie that's mostly a detective movie in the first half. The first half of this movie feels like Seven, and then the rest of the movie is something way more sinister. I need to watch more films by Perkins because honestly, this felt like a really well-orchestrated film. I didn't watch The Black Coat's Daughter or anything else that he's made. There have been a lot of religious horror movies this year, you know, like Immaculate, The First Omen, The Exorcism, which I didn't see, thankfully. Right now, Longlegs is the best of all of those films. It is probably my favorite horror movie of this year as well, right next to Love Lies Bleeding for me. I hate this conversation because it happens once a year. Just don't go in with these crazy high expectations. Just go into the movie thinking I'm gonna watch a detective, satanic horror movie with Nick Cage playing some crazy character. That's all you need to know to be entertained by this movie. I'd give it like a solid 8 out of 10. I don't know if I'm really gonna rewatch it ever again. I just reviewed Maxine, Kinds of Kindness, and Horizon. Check out any of those reviews. Let me know what your favorite horror movie of the year is. I'm definitely thinking Longlegs is going to compete with Nosferatu later in the year. I'll see y'all later.